Hi, this is Dan Botz. I've just come from speaking at the NAACP state meeting that was held in Columbus, Ohio. They didn't want any videotaping. The NAACP doesn't endorse candidates, but they had all of the candidates coming and speaking today. And as I said to the NAACP, as an NAACP member, as a candidate for the U.S. Senate, I was very proud to be there. I was also proud to be there knowing that Ben Jealous, the head of the NAACP, had played an important role in getting the labor unions on board for this October 2nd demonstration in Washington, D.C., a march for jobs. If we're going to get jobs in the United States, we're going to have to go out there and fight for them. What I told the NAACP today was that we face three crises in this country. One is the economy, one is the environment, and one is the wars that our country is involved in. And that while there was a great deal of pride and excitement in the election of an African American president, the breaking of a racist barrier in our country, another barrier that had fallen, that still the crises continued. And they continue because neither the Republican nor the Democratic parties can solve the problems facing us. And why is that? Because they're parties dominated by the corporations. They serve the banks, the insurance companies, and the big corporations. And given that, they can't deal with these problems. The first problem, of course, is the economy. We have 10% unemployment here in Ohio. We have something like 10% unemployment around the nation. For African Americans and Latinos, it's more like 20%. And for our youth, it's more like 50%. And young people can't get that first job. And yet the Democrats and Republicans aren't solving this problem. The Recovery Act, or the stimulus of $800 billion that Obama did earlier, was not sufficient, and the $50 billion he proposes right now for infrastructure will not get us out of this, nor will tax cuts for small business. We need to have the government move in and put people to work. And part of putting people to work should be taking those idle factories and factories operating at a very low percentage of their capacity and putting them to work with the union people, the working people who know how to make those factories hum, putting those factories to work producing for the green economy. Secondly, the environment. I asked the NAACP audience to think about the Katrina hurricane. And of course, that terrible image of the suffering in Katrina, those 1,836 people killed by the Katrina hurricane, the neglect of Bush, the failure of FEMA, the terrible suffering of the Superdome. But really, we should think about it also because it is indicative of the kind of future of environmental catastrophes that we're going to face. We have had this summer the forests burning around Moscow, the flooding in Pakistan. We have right now these terrible floods in Texas. We face an environmental catastrophe. We have to stop the use of carbon fuels. We have to get away from oil and coal. And neither the Democrats nor Republicans can do that because the real spill of oil has not been in the Gulf, it's been in our Congress, where millions of dollars go to buy congressmen who vote for the oil companies for policies that both distort our domestic economy and our environment, but policies that also lead us to war abroad. And finally, I turned to those war issues and I told the NAACP that the wars are not ending, they're expanding. We see 50,000 troops, an occupying army in Iraq. We have 100,000 troops in Afghanistan. I had a woman stand up in Cleveland and say, it's hard for me to explain to the American people that their president is bombing our country. She was a Pakistani woman, a Pakistani immigrant to the United States. And she said, my country is being bombed, women and children are being killed. That's the reality. These wars both distort our morality and they distort our national economy. And we need to end that. And we can't do it with the Democrats and the Republicans. We can only do it by rebuilding a powerful social movement, a civil rights movement, a labor movement, a new movement, which we can hardly imagine what it will be. But we know it will use those tactics such as the confrontation with authority, such as civil disobedience, strikes, and boycotts. We know that a new movement will come along and also develop new tactics, and that's what will change this country. And I'm the candidate who stands for that future and for that movement. And really the alternative has got to be socialism. It has got to be the democratic control of our economy, the end of the control of the corporations over our economy, the end of the irrational capitalist system, the end of a government of two capitalist parties. The people that make this country run should be the ones who run the country, and that's America's working people. Thanks a lot. I'm on my way to Cleveland to speak to supporters there and to speak to a Labor Party conference there. You be in touch with me, I'll be in touch with you. Dan Botz, candidate for the U.S. Senate in Ohio, the socialist candidate.